The Furman Lake hasn't always looked as it does today. Let's travel back in time over 50 years. Before the lake water was filled with all the pollution it currently contains, it was a place of engaged learning and recreation for students and faculty on the campus. Construction on the 40-acre lake began in 1953 and was completed in 1954. To begin construction on a lake, a crew must either dam a river or a stream and allow water to pool in a confined area, or construct a bed as well as banks to contain the water. In the case of the Furman Lake, the latter way was chosen to construct the lake. The lake's main water source came from, and still continues to come from, two tributary streams, as well as some storm runoff. Storm runoff is one of the main causes of the way the lake is today.
Hello, Mr. Knight. Could you tell us about the restoration projects going on for the lake?
Yes, Furman in 2006 looked at the status of the lake kind of to date. It was built during the 50s when Furman moved to this campus from the downtown campus. And it obviously is a man-made lake, as almost all of the lakes are in our part of the country, given our geography. And so over the years, the lake had deteriorated in quality. There had been a lot of nutrient inputs into the lake that had degraded the quality of the water, the quality of the habitat around the lake, and how enjoyable it was for the Furman community as well. For a long time, the lake had been used for recreational activities, swimming, boating, triathlons, things like that. And because of the pollution in the lake, that was really no longer possible. And so in 2006, during the Year of the Environment, Furman took a look at what the status of the lake was and started coming up with a plan to revitalize the lake. A lot of faculty and students had worked on looking at the quality of the lake prior to this, so there was a lot of awareness about what the problems were. And during 2006, we created a plan for restoring the lake to a more functional habitat, and eventually to restoring it to a quality such that we would be able to use it recreationally again as well. And so over the past several years, we have tried to address the kind of three main sources of the problem, if you will. One are the waterfowl that are in the lake. One problem is nutrient input coming in from the two streams that feed the lake. And one problem is just runoff coming from the areas around the lake, not through the streams, but just directly from parking lots and grass areas into the lake. And so to combat those three problems, we've undertaken a number of measures to help reduce the waterfowl population to a healthier level. We have changed the vegetation around the lake to make it less friendly to waterfowl. We've also discouraged folks who had come to visit Furman from feeding the birds, which had been a very common pastime. To help deal with some of the nutrient input coming in the streams, we changed the way that some of the streams flow, implemented some settling ponds in the streams to get some of those sediments and nutrients to settle out before they entered the lake proper. And then we also have changed the vegetation around the lake shore to make it more impervious to less friendly for runoff. So basically increasing the amount of vegetation and changing the kind of patterns of vegetation around the lake so that less runoff would enter the lake.
To figure out the science of the lake, I caught up with Dr. Wade Worthen, a professor in the biology department, and also one of the founders of the Lake Restoration Project. He explained the issues behind the lake's most infamous problem, the Canada geese.
Canada geese defecate about 1/4 pound of feces a day. So 400 waterfowl, granted not all of them were geese, but we're looking at almost 100 pounds of feces a day. Canada geese also, rather unusual for birds, harbor E. coli bacteria in their gut as we do. And so their fouling of the water presented a potential health risk to people. Canada geese can live 20 years, and so when they find a place they like, they stay there.
The Furman Lake is really a great example of an ecosystem gone bad. Dr. Worthen explains the benefits this
We use the lake as a model system to look at environmental issues and issues of how a lake works and functions and issues of sustainability as well. Most notably, since we have a defined date at which the lake restoration project really began, which was the fall of 2006, when we started changing the mowing regime around the lake and not mowing directly to the water's edge. We have then a benchmark date, and we can compare what the chemical and biological conditions of the lake were before with conditions since that point, and since the point at which other major elements have been changed. And so we actually have posted much of that information on the website.
Okay.
So, that includes student reports from last year's ecology class. Like I said, students in many biology classes are monitoring the bacteria over time. We have students that are involved in research on the lake. I had a student that was looking at dragonfly communities last year on the lake. Another student who was doing a survey of reptiles on campus, which included the turtles in the lake. And many EES students have been using the lake as a sample point in their studies of water quality in the upstate.
So what's all this research telling us? Is the lake actually getting any better?
The water quality has improved dramatically. The EPA sets particular guidelines for the amount of bacteria, the concentration of bacteria that you can have for water that's going to be used for particular things. So water that's classified as recreational water for recreational use has an upper limit of 126 E. coli cells per 100 milliliter sample of water. And 5 years ago, we had levels that were 30 to 50 times that on occasion. And we haven't seen those spikes in the last couple of years. When concentrations vary dramatically with weather conditions and temperature and things like that, but now concentrations are most often below that critical level, but they do spike above it, on occasion 30% above it, not 30 times above it.
Okay.
So the water has cleared.